Whispers about Francesco Bagnaia's future have begun to spread like underground currents, quietly reshaping the mood of the paddock despite his contract with Ducati Lenovo officially binding him until the end of 2026. In a surprising twist, increasingly insistent reports from Italy suggest that the two-time MotoGP World Champion may be tempted by the astonishing idea of abandoning the Borgo Panigale powerhouse for a sensational move to Monster Energy Yamaha in 2027. In recent months, Yamaha has found itself under intensifying pressure from its symbolic spearhead, Fabio Quartararo. The Frenchman has demanded tangible progress on the embryonic V4 engine, a radical departure from the historic inline-4 architecture that has defined the brand's technical identity for decades. Quartararo has made it unmistakably clear that if he does not see concrete advancements by the 2026 preseason tests, he will seriously consider turning toward a more competitive project. This mounting tension has forced Yamaha to craft, with surgical precision, a potential contingency plan. Should their former world champion decide to walk away, the factory would require an elite figure capable of leading a complete renaissance of their racing division. According to reports from La Gazzetta dello Sport, Bagnaia has emerged as a centerpiece of that shortlist, a proven superstar and the ideal face to launch Yamaha's bold new engineering revolution. Bagnaia's 2025 campaign has fallen dramatically short of the extraordinary standards he set in previous years. After dominating the World Championship in 2022 and 2023, and finishing runner-up in both 2021 and 2024, the Italian has slipped into an uncharacteristic fifth place, collecting only 2 Grand Prix victories and 2 sprint wins. A quiet but growing frustration has begun to settle within him. Contract renewal talks with Ducati are expected to surface in the winter. Yet inside the team, there is an unmistakable sense that internal dynamics have shifted. The arrival of Marc Márquez and his immediate, blistering competitiveness has redrawn the hierarchy within the garage. Many paddock insiders believe Bagnaia may feel overshadowed and, perhaps, increasingly drawn to the idea of a new chapter where he can once again stand as the undisputed leader. Yamaha's 2027 master plan begins as a whisper in the paddock, a whisper that grows into a blueprint bold enough to redraw an era. And engineers close to the project say the pairing of Bagnaia and Toprak is not just strategic but symbolic of a rebirth. Pecco studies data in silence as if reading his own future, thinking, if I jump, it must be for something that breathes with me. The factory imagines him as the calm architect of a new V4 Soul, a machine whose firing order has been subtly revised to sharpen mid-corner stability, a detail few outside the dyno room even know exists. Toprak, by contrast, is envisioned as the spark that lights the fuse, the rider who turns braking zones into stages where physics seems only a suggestion. Journalists describe the concept as Yamaha's most daring alignment since their golden eras, yet internally it feels more like planting a seed in scorched earth. We need a leader who shapes the bike as much as the bike shapes him, a senior engineer reportedly said. Bagnaia's smooth precision would glide across this new platform like ink on handmade paper, delicate yet decisive. Toprak's aggression would carve its signature into every turn, a storm folded inside a single throttle twist. Together they become a strange harmony, like 2 notes that shouldn't blend but create a chord that stays in the mind long after the music stops. The project demands total reinvention, from chassis flex ratios to aero surfaces widened by millimeters to stabilize Toprak's violent entries. Pecco feels the weight of legacy tightening on his shoulders, remembering Ducati's faith in him yet sensing the shifting winds. He wonders if greatness sometimes requires the courage to walk toward the unknown instead of clinging to the familiar. A mechanic describes the duo as a precision scalpel paired with a lightning bolt, a metaphor that feels too perfect to ignore. Yamaha executives view 2027 as a year where hesitation dies and ambition breathes. The dream grows in secret rooms, under fluorescent lights humming like distant anticipation. Toprak, hearing rumors, smiles with the unspoken confidence of someone who has always known the road could bend toward destiny. Bagnaia, hearing the same whispers, feels a tremor of possibility that unsettles him in thrilling ways. The paddock begins to sense that Yamaha is not building a lineup but forging a prophecy. Somewhere between fear and desire, the idea becomes irresistible. And in its swelling momentum, one truth becomes clear. Some revolutions begin not with noise, but with 2 riders deciding the horizon is no longer enough. Yamaha's engineers speak of Bagnaia in low, deliberate tones, as if discussing a compass they desperately need to navigate the storm brewing around their radical V4 shift. They see in him a mind that dissects corners like equations, a rider who whispers, "The bike must tell the truth before I can answer it." His reputation for analyzing microvibrations in the throttle response, sometimes down to a 2-millisecond lag in torque delivery, is a little-known detail that has stunned even veteran technicians. The factory believes that abandoning the inline-4 is not merely a technical decision, but a psychological gamble, requiring a rider capable of stitching logic and instinct together. Pecco understands the language of development better than anyone, one insider claims. His calm presence in the garage feels almost architectural, a structure that holds the chaos together when prototypes misfire and data contradicts itself. Quartararo, once the golden hope, pushed hard for progress, but Bagnaia carries a different kind of persuasion, quieter yet sharper. He approaches a new engine not as a weapon, but as a riddle waiting for its final line. Yamaha imagines him as the captain of this rebuild, steering a ship carved from uncertainty into a future no one fully recognizes yet. The shift in philosophy feels immense, like teaching a river to flow uphill. Bagnaia's introspection gives the project a pulse that steadies nervous hands around him. Engineers watch him ride and see a man translating physics into poetry. The new V4 needs that poetry to breathe. Toprak may ignite the spectacle, but Bagnaia shapes the foundation. His movements on track resemble a lantern glowing in a cavern, revealing depths no one noticed before. The factory senses that with him, the impossible narrows into something negotiable. Pecco, aware of the whispers, wonders if destiny sometimes hides in the machinery we dare to rebuild. The paddock feels the tension as the idea grows teeth. As Yamaha leans into its reinvention, one sentence echoes through their plans like a vow carved in metal. Every revolution needs a captain who knows how to listen to the silence before the storm. Quartararo moves through the Yamaha garage with the tense calm of a man counting the seconds left on a clock only he can hear, and inside he admits to himself, "I won't stay if the bike stays still." His ultimatum about the 2026 preseason prototype is no longer rumor, but a line carved sharply into Yamaha's internal briefings. Engineers know that the new V4 must show not just improvement but transformation, especially in the throttle pickup zone where Fabio has long complained of a hidden instability measurable at barely 0.3 degrees of butterfly oscillation. "If we don't make a leap, he'll walk," one technician confides with a tired honesty. Yamaha's recent aggressiveness in the rider market reveals more fear than ambition. They are bracing for the possibility that their former champion may choose a future built elsewhere. Fabio's smile in interviews seems thinner now, like a curtain pulled over a storm. The paddock senses he is no longer bluffing. Yamaha's response is swift, almost desperate, as they explore replacements with the quiet efficiency of a team preparing for heartbreak. Bagnaia's name rises repeatedly in their closed-door conversations. Toprak's arrival adds another layer of urgency, a reminder that the future is coming faster than the present can hold. Fabio watches from the sidelines and feels the garage shifting beneath his boots. He wonders whether loyalty still matters in a sport where milliseconds define everything. His inner conflict crackles like electricity tracing through an exposed wire. The Yamaha he once carried on his shoulders now feels like a house rearranging itself without warning. Engineers whisper that his sensitivity to front-end feedback borders on supernatural. They know losing that intuition would wound the project deeply. Yamaha stands at the edge of a decision shaped by fear, ambition, and mechanical rebirth. And as the pressure tightens around the coming prototype test, a single truth rises like a final breath. Deadlines don't just measure time. They measure who you become when it runs out. Márquez's arrival in the Ducati garage has tilted the atmosphere like a room where the lighting subtly shifts, revealing shadows that were not there before, and Bagnaia feels each contour of that change pressing against him. For the first time, he admits silently to himself, "I'm still fast, but am I still the center?" Engineers who once hovered around his workstation now divide their attention with clinical precision. Marc brings data we've never seen before. A crew member murmurs, half in awe, half in warning. A little-known detail circulating through the technical staff is that Márquez has adapted to Ducati's rear grip load transfer almost instantly, reducing his corner exit wheel spin by nearly 4% compared to the baseline, an adjustment that normally takes months. Bagnaia watches those numbers appear on the screens like constellations forming a new sky that isn't his. The hierarchy has not collapsed, but has undeniably rearranged itself. In meetings, there is a different tempo, a new gravitational pull. Pecco feels it in the subtle pauses before engineers answer him. He feels it in the way Márquez walks through the garage, light but unignorable, like a comet passing low enough to stir the tides. Ducati insists that both riders are equal, Yet equality in MotoGP is often an elegant illusion. Bagnaia senses a narrative rewriting itself around him. His precision remains revered, but now it coexists with a louder brilliance beside him. He wonders if staying means slowly shrinking in someone else's glow. His thoughts churn like ink swirling in water, beautiful yet unsettling. A mechanic notes that Pecco's debriefs have grown sharper, more probing, as if he is fighting to reclaim space through intellect. The tension is quiet but alive, breathing between pit walls and data sheets. And in that tightening space, one possibility grows brighter. Sometimes the only way to keep your identity intact is to step where no shadow can follow you. Bagnaia's 2025 season unravels with the slow tension of a rope fraying strand by strand, leaving him in an unfamiliar fifth place that feels colder than any podium he has ever missed. He tells himself quietly, something inside me has to change before the results do. The statistics confirm the downturn with surgical clarity. His corner entry consistency has dropped by a mere 0.07 seconds on average, a tiny but devastating detail known only within Ducati's analytics room. He's not slower, just less certain, a technician whispers, capturing the nuance that numbers alone cannot. Pecco walks through the paddock carrying a weight that is part expectation, part disappointment. Seasons of dominance have conditioned everyone to believe he lives permanently near the summit, yet now the landscape shifts beneath him. Each race weekend feels like navigating a river whose current he no longer fully commands. The slump opens cracks where doubt seeps in, subtle but relentless. Engineers sense his frustration in the sharper edge of his feedback. He senses theirs in the silence after his comments. The changing hierarchy with Márquez only sharpens the ache. At times, Bagnaia feels like a sculpture being slowly reshaped by hands he cannot see. His motivation flickers between defiance and fatigue. Still, he knows slumps often precede rebirth. The paddock reads his body language like scripture, searching for signs of a coming decision. Ducati hopes his loyalty will anchor him, yet nothing feels anchored anymore. Even the familiar scent of hot brakes and rubber seems different, as if the track itself is asking him who he wants to be next. Pressure curls around him like fog climbing a mountainside, soft yet suffocating. And in this quiet turmoil, one truth crystallizes with almost painful clarity. Sometimes a rider must fall from his rhythm to rediscover the fire that once made him unstoppable. Yamaha's recent engineering overhaul feels less like routine restructuring and more like a tectonic shift, a company inhaling deeply before rewriting its own heartbeat. Bagnaia watches from afar and thinks they're not rebuilding a bike, they're rebuilding an invitation. The arrival of specialists from Ducati and KTM signals a strategy far sharper than public statements suggest. One insider reveals a little-known technical detail. Yamaha is experimenting with a hybrid crankmass profile that changes inertia dynamically across RPM ranges, a concept borrowed from prototypes never released to the grid. "We're not experimenting, we're hunting," a senior engineer says with rare bluntness. Every meeting buzzes with the urgency of people who know time is no longer a gentle companion. The new V4 is being shaped not for comfort but for champions who demand truth from every vibration. Top-tier riders influence design in subtle ways, from aero load maps tuned for aggressive mid-corner transitions to torque curves shaped around elite instincts. The engineers speak in numbers, but the mood carries poetry, heavy and electric. Yamaha wants a machine that sings under pressure, a bike capable of seducing riders who once seemed unreachable. Bagnaia senses the courtship in the subtext of every rumor. Quartararo senses it too, which only heightens the tension. Toprak's arrival intensifies the momentum, his style forcing Yamaha to chase limits they once tiptoed around. The factory's hallways echo with the quiet clatter of ambition sharpening itself. Even the test bench feels different, humming with a pitch that suggests something waking from long sleep. Journalists describe the plan as bold, but boldness is only the surface. Underneath lies a transformation sculpted with the patience of artisans and the ferocity of visionaries. And as the V4 project accelerates with unnerving focus, one truth rises like heat from a freshly fired engine. Yamaha is no longer waiting for legends, they are building the machine that will summon them. Toprak approaches braking zones with a ferocity that feels almost supernatural, a style so violent yet controlled that engineers describe it as data written in shockwaves, and he privately admits the limit only matters once I've passed it. His arrival gives Yamaha a new metric of truth, a rider whose late break entries reveal structural weaknesses most riders never stress. One little-known detail circulating in the engineering rooms is that Toprak can generate up to 1.8 g of deceleration without destabilizing the chassis, a figure that forces Yamaha to rethink stiffness ratios across the new V4 platform. He shows us where the bike lies, a technician says, half admiring, half terrified. Each test run disrupts months of assumptions. The engineers watch his telemetry like astronomers tracking a meteor. His feedback doesn't arrive as calm notes, but as vivid, almost physical impressions carved from instinct. Bagnaia's precision would then translate those impressions into repeatable patterns, forming a duet of chaos and clarity. Together, they could compress Yamaha's development timeline in ways once considered impossible. The paddock imagines their synergy as a strange equation balancing fire and geometry. Toprak's braking becomes a lighthouse exposing every hidden fracture in the prototype. The V4 responds by evolving faster, shedding old habits like a snake shedding tired skin. Yamaha senses an acceleration not just in speed, but in understanding. The tests feel cinematic, sparks, silence, then the soft click of engineers rewriting parameters. Bagnaia watches and sees potential shaped in turbulence. Toprak feels the bike beginning to speak his language. The factory realizes that breakthroughs rarely arrive politely. They crash through the door wearing courage. And in the union of their contrasting genius, a single thought begins to bloom. Sometimes the future comes early when two riders dare to bend reality together. The 2026 to 2027 rider market approaches with the tension of a storm tightening its spiral, each rumor a gust that reshapes the landscape, and even Bagnaia admits silently, if everything shifts at once, maybe I'm meant to shift too. Quartararo's ultimatum hangs in the air like a countdown, neither side can pause. Márquez's rise inside Ducati redraws loyalties with unsettling speed. We're witnessing a reset, not just a shuffle, one paddock insider whispers. Yamaha's technological rebirth only amplifies the chaos, its V4 project humming like a promise waiting to be claimed. A little-known detail circulating among engineers reveals that Yamaha's simulation models predict a 5% performance leap once both Toprak and a second elite rider contribute synchronized feedback. Such figures ripple through the market with quiet violence. Agents sharpen their strategies. Teams study each other's silences more than their statements. Bagnaia feels the shifting hierarchy around him and wonders if the future still belongs to the rider who adapts fastest rather than the one who stays loyal longest. Quartararo senses the precariousness of his own throne. Márquez seems to grow stronger as others hesitate. The entire grid becomes a chessboard where every move threatens to reshape the decades ahead. Yamaha's pursuit of a superstar accelerates the sense that destiny is in motion. Ducati fears losing balance just as they've seized control. Even satellite teams prepare for fallout, knowing big moves send shockwaves into the smallest corners. The paddock watches with the electric fascination of people witnessing history assembling itself in real time. Negotiations thicken, secrets multiply, and every headline feels like a tremor beneath the surface. And as whispers rise into something closer to prophecy, one sentence defines the approaching storm. Sometimes the era doesn't change the riders, sometimes the riders change the era.